Hi, I'm Addison Groove. Welcome to my studio in Bristol. The first thing I'm going to talk about most is my favourite instrument, the drum machine, of course. I've had this drum machine for about probably 3 years now. And the reason why I bought it was to play live with. It was a bit of a blag one because Fabric asked me to play live as Addison Groove, and I agreed to do it, but I agreed to do it without any instrument, so I thought it would be a good idea to buy this thing. I found it on eBay and I bought it in Croydon. At the time it was about £1,200. I think now it's worth about double at least. This one's a little bit special because it's been modded by Kenton with a MIDI retrofit. So basically I can play it off Ableton, I can use Ableton as a clock, and then that sets everything off and it keeps it going, and then I can daisy chain things like these 303 synthesizers, whatever, so it plays in sync. The thing I like the most about it really is it sounds good, obviously, but every sound has its own output on the back. So all the sounds go into the mixing desk, and then I'm just basically treating my live sets a bit more like how a reggae or a dub kind of producer would treat music. Every sound has its own channel. You can send things to delays and reverbs, so things become a bit more spaced out, but still very 808, which is kind of handy. Very good to play drunk, I might add, because I've done it. And yeah, I love it. I love it really. It's really so easy to use. You literally press start or stop. But I trigger it from Ableton because it keeps the tempo, like I mentioned. So it's a little demonstration. This is a blank patch. We're just going to basically set a sound up. Right now I'm dialing in the accent, which gives it like velocity, almost velocity, I suppose, and a bass drum. So you can't hear anything because it's all going through my desk, which is just here. So you can see that I've got, other than control my desk, I've got control on the volume on this thing as well. So it's so easy to be quick with turning things on and off, changing things. I mean, every time I use it, I just use it from scratch. I don't really have any presets on there that I've saved. They're so easy to make, and anything you do it's just a groove, always. No matter what you do, it's going to sound good. One thing it doesn't have that the 909 does have is the swing function. Doesn't support that at all. Which, if you're triggering it from Ableton, you can use it in Ableton by programming MIDI rather than programming it on there, and then obviously you can use swing using the quantized grooves and stuff. But that's I suppose it's the only thing it doesn't have that I wish it did, swing. But I've actually got it sampled. I've sampled the whole thing through my Mackie desk. I really like the drive on the Mackie desk. It gives it like a certain character. And depending on how I feel, it will go through either the Culture Vulture, the Drummer, and the UAD card. The UAD card has really good preamps, so driving it through that is giving it different characteristics. One thing this 808 has that might be different than other ones is, and I believe everyone is different, is the bass drum on this one is not very long. So I'll give you an example. If I just play one bass note, this, you see, it's not a very long decay on it, and that's with the decay turn up full. If I turn the decay down, it's just a little blip, and then But that, surprisingly, even though it sounds like that now, you do that in a club and it just vibrates the whole windows. 808 is like, its prominent frequency is 60 hertz. So yeah, you look on an analyzer and it's just like a spike at 60. So that to some people would seem quite high, but surprisingly that 60 hertz is really chesty. And like I said, I got it sampled, so I've got it on the keyboard. You go down a couple of notes and then you're hitting kind of 50, 48 hertz, and that's even lower, providing the sound system can handle that. So other than the bass drum, which I've spoken about a lot, it has a snare and it has 3 different types of toms, but the toms can be changed to conga, which sound, well, I'll give you an idea. This is the low tom. And then you can switch it to conga, and it always sounds good, really distorted. Yeah. The rim shot is also a clave. Not sure how you say that. And the clap is a maracas, but I don't really use the maracas too often. The clap is superior. Obviously cowbell, cymbal, hi-hat, closed hat. The hi-hat's really cool because it has a decay time, so, and it has a choke function where it will play and then the hi-hat will cut it off, so you can get a good rhythm that way as well. So beneath the 808 we have 2 303s, which are not actually 303s, they're emulations. This one is the Zoxbox, this is the TB3. This one I got yesterday, so I'm not entirely sure how it works, but it seems pretty straightforward, fairly simple to use, and quite robust actually for traveling with. I travel with this one, but it's starting to make a noise. Things inside are starting to fall apart. But I think this is amazing. It sounds very, very good. And when using it live with the drum machine in the club, you can keep it very minimal, just the bass drum of the 808 and the Zoxbox. And I've seen people go crazy to it. But I think this is a good time to compare both of these together with the 808 to see how they sound. So from playing around with that for today, I quite like the way they sound together. This one's much more digital sounding, as you can hear. It's like, it hasn't got much character, I don't think. But that's kind of good because it contrasts with this really well. So I think I might have just got a new addition to my live setup, which before today I didn't expect. I actually bought this thinking it would replace this because this is getting beaten up, but this sounds really good, this one. So, you know, that was quite a nice jam, but that was pretty dry. Usually what I do with the mixing desk is send instruments to the desk and then send reverbs and delays and kind of distortions to it using my guitar pedals. So that was kind of a bit more of a raw jam though. But I won't write this off. I might not sell it now. I've only had it for a day. So connected to the TB3 now is the Pulse, which in this case I've got it triggered to the same notes as what the 303 is. So, you know, as a reminder, that's the 303. Now we've got this going. Keeps it in key, keeps all the same notes, but it's just kind of like something to add on top. Again, I used a similar process on my album from the output of the Zoxbox actually into the Virus, but you can be done with this. This is very new. I've hardly used it, I'll be honest. I've hardly used it, so we'll flick through some sounds and see if we can find anything interesting. That's nice if you like the sound of snow, storm. That's great. That sounds like I did a lot of work, but I didn't. All I did was that. Sounds just like Berlin. Yeah, like I said, not used this too much, but it's quite an interesting thing. It's very small as well, so it's quite handy to take on tour if you wish to. It's not too heavy, so yeah. But again, something I should delve deeper into. The thing I've used the most on a lot of my music in the past is this thing for sure. So now we have the Virus plugged in because I haven't literally got enough power cables for all this in my studio. This I bought this a long time ago, but maybe I bought this when I was Headhunter, not Addison Groove. I bought it because my Headhunter sound was very almost techno influenced, so I was aware that this thing could produce these kind of synthetic frequency modulated tones. So I bought it for that. And when I was making my Headhunter tracks, I hardly used it. I tend to use it more now than I did in the past, but it's really, really good. It's amazing, actually. It comes with some software, so you can, you know, edit everything in Logic using the audio unit. And I don't think they've really updated these since they come out. And there's a bunch of letters and stuff on there. That's just for my own kind of sanity, because I'm not a keyboard player at all. But I do understand I understand chords, and so I know, you know, these. And I like the sound of those three. Whatever. It just helps me mentally, and I think I would recommend it to anyone who's not a keyboard player to kind of like look on YouTube, look at some kind of videos about chord progressions, or find some songs that you like by other musicians and kind of make a note of the chord structures of the songs. And that's kind of what I did before my most recent album. I didn't really know anything about making music in a kind of, you know, in a kind of songwriting way. So what I did was I would watch some videos, learn the notes, and kind of learn some things that way. And that's what all these colours are. These colours have just been on there for a while now, and they probably don't make much sense to me anymore. But I think it's good for your sanity to kind of learn a little bit about music theory. For anything spacey, space age, you know, there's a ton of soft synths out there, but I still believe that this sounds better than any soft synth I've heard. And the variety of sounds and the access that you can get to the sounds is very easy. You know, you can go from a pad sound to, oh, let me just. As you can tell, just from those two sounds, it has a specific kind of sound, a certain character. It's not very warm, it's not very analog-y, I wouldn't say, but it's definitely good at cutting through a mix and having that kind of contrast between everything else in your music. Obviously, you don't want to use the same instruments in all the music you make, so it's important to have these different instruments. Like I've got the 808, I've got the 303. The Pulse, like I said, I've hardly touched, but I can imagine it being very similar to the Virus in the way it's kind of, it sounds and its filters and stuff like that. So I wanted to sell it, and then I just ended up using it again, and it gives me a reason to keep it. So I don't feel like I need to buy another synthesizer now, but this one, if I need some sounds or something, I will go into it. And what I would do most of the time is just sample it, and then I put it into Ableton, and then use that in a song. So I'm not really like playing on top of a loop that's going or something. I'm kind of just playing a note, putting it into the sequencer, and then from that I'll chop and change it a bit. I'm sure you're very curious to know what this is. It cost me about £30 on eBay. It's basically a modified driving car. It has a pitch bend. These are cut-off switches, which, well, as you can tell, it has these lovely colourful buttons. When I press a button, it makes a lovely noise. So this is the ultimate tool to play live with, because you can do it drunk again. And you can pick it up, and I send it to the desk. I don't drive it too hard because it wouldn't sound very good, but I've got some effects that it goes through, so I become a bit more like a reggae man. So for example, pretty straightforward, but pretty awesome at the same time. There's nothing wrong with this. I have no complaints about this thing. It cost me £30, and it sounds like a fire truck, which is exactly what I want. I use Machine to play live with. The way I usually have it set up is I will have it coming out of the computer into a channel on the desk, and then I will have it routed back into the computer so I can sample what I'm doing within Machine. So it's a bit of a complicated setup, because the Mackie's really good, because you have your sub mixer, which is kind of handy to feed back into Ableton or whatever. So with Machine, I would just trigger sounds or play sounds, and then set it up as a input loop on Ableton, and then I'll have it looping. So I can walk away from Machine, and then I have the physical audio in Ableton. And that's generally how I've always made music, really, like getting audio, sampling it, and then reshaping that audio. Here is my guitar pedals, which I absolutely love. The first one I ever bought, I think, was this one. TC Electronic. It's a delay. It's a digital delay. It's very, very simple. It doesn't have bags of character, but it doesn't need to be. It does. It's a simple process of delaying a sound. I mean, I wanted to buy a new one, but I have no reason to. It does exactly what it says. This is my favourite guitar pedal. This is the Strymon Blue Sky. It's a reverb. It's amazing. It's the K on it is quite long. It has a really good mode called Shimmer and Spring as well, and they sound amazing on a lot of tracks I've released in the last couple of years. I've used it on mostly the 808, like especially the clap. If you listen to my music and you listen to the clap, you'll hear a certain shimmer to the tail of the clap, and that's exactly that. So going through the desk and all this equipment and stuff, but it's my favorite guitar pedal I have. However, this is a new edition. I got this for a recent live set I did. Wasn't entirely sure what I was buying, just assumed that it was quite good. It's called Coma BD101. It's a delay and a gate, but it doesn't delay in the kind of same way that one delays. Like it does very short delays, and it does it in a kind of very aggressive way, super aggressive. If you kind of slowly mess around with the parameters, you can kind of get a sensation that an airplane is taking off. But I really like it, and for the I'm going to continue using this in my live sets for the future, basically. But it doesn't have much. But the cool things it does have is it has a motion sensor, so you could use your hand as a gesture to control another parameter. So the time, the cycle. You just route it using these patch bays at the top, and your hand can basically essentially control how, the delay time and stuff like that, which is quite a cool effect. That was one of the biggest selling points for me. When I did come to using it live, I didn't use that because I learned that function can be a bit out of control, especially if you just do that. So I would much prefer to use it in a hands-on way. But it's a very cool guitar pedal, which I don't think is actually meant for guitarists. I think it's more meant for studio and live use for electronic musicians. And this one is just a filter, Moog low-pass filter. The way I had this set up last time was this was actually going into this. So if stuff became too out of control on the Coma, all I had to do was just turn down the Moog, and that out of controlness was gone. Then I can actually control the crazy sounds this thing is creating using the Moog, which it tamed it, and it made it a bit more usable. But this is a great tool. I should have bought two because it's only in mono, but it works okay with the drum machine because everything in the drum machine is mono, so I don't really need to. One other thing I should mention is this little green box that's been sitting here. This is a summing mixer. I needed this for when I was doing a couple of DJ shows in America where they wanted me to use my drum machine. But the drum machine has loads of outputs, and trying to put that into a DJ mixer is impossible. It has kind of a main output on the drum machine, but it's very noisy. So I bought this summing mixer so I can put the individual outputs into this, and then using the stereo out, it can go into a DJ mixer. I believe Unit Audio are an American company. I'm not sure how big they are, but this thing has been awesome. It's kind of the reason why, like I said, is why I bought it for my DJ sets. At the time I was using Tractor, and my 808 Tractor had a good MIDI out function. But yeah, it saved me on that tour, basically. I don't use it so much now, but if anyone's looking for something to use when they're using their drum machine that has multiple outputs, anything that has multiple outputs to go into a DJ mixer, something like this is perfect. This is my lovely rack. At the top of the rack is a patch bay that I no longer use. I used to use it to patch things up. I thought it would be a good thing to buy when I was starting to buy all this analog equipment, but I tend not to use it so much now because here I have a UAD, which has multiple ins and outs, so it's not necessary anymore. Culture Vulture is a brilliant piece of kit. I don't use it as much as I should, but I've recorded my drum machine through it. and anything else really kind of adds kind of like a it's this distortion, but it's super controlled, and all it really does is kind of change the harmonics of a sound rather than really give the sound lots of damage, which is really good. This is a drummer. I've got the drummer set up on the Mackie desk, just as an insert. So anything that comes through the Mackie desk just a little bit gets compressed. Does it make a difference to my music? Probably not, but I just like to use it. Warms it up. I can see the tubes lighting up. It does make a difference. I've noticed it make a difference on the bass drum of the 808. Like on the snares, like I said, I record the snares through the reverb, put that through this drummer. Kind of makes the snare tail a little bit more tighter to the snare drum. But my favorite piece of equipment I've purchased in the last year or two is definitely this UAD card. This one's the Apollo. This one it's a quad. So it's got 4 processors in, but obviously it has 10 in, 10 out. So for recording vocals, like on my most recent album, it was really cool. But I bought it because of the plugins. There's plugins that you can get with this thing that you cannot get otherwise, they're software plugins, but they're emulation of, hardware. And if you do a comparison, the comparison is almost non-existent. I've not done that personally, but from what I've looked and heard, and I've spoken to my friends about, they've told me that, get one of these. Scuba recommended this to me. I was like, what new equipment have you bought? He said, oh, UAD card. He's like, you should buy one. So as soon as I bought one, I started buying plugins, and I haven't stopped. And every time they release a new one, I tend to buy it. But it really has helped the mixdown element of my production. I'm not working as hard trying to get everything EQ'd and separated. When I run things through this it kind of does it for me, which is kind of what analog gear would do. If you spend a lot of money on analog gear, you kind of already got a built-in sound that cuts through the mix. Whereas with software, I was finding I was EQing a lot, trying to compensate for other things. Some of my favorite plugins that come in with Apollo, well, the most recent one would be the new API, which is this. It's like a channel strip, obviously. It's got compressor and EQ. The best part about it is the preamp. Just driving anything through the preamp. I'm now mixing down on my main channel, and I'm putting this on my main channel. And I'm driving the preamp. I'm not doing no EQs. I'm not using the compressor. I'm just using the preamp, just to change the quality of the sound a little bit. I can give you an example of that, actually, because I have a track here that I've been working on the last couple of days. I went out on the weekend in Barcelona. I played it, and when I played it, I realised I still needed a bit more bass. So I'll come back and played it. But I'm just going to give you I'm just going to give you the master channel. So this is the master channel. I'm going to switch this off. Now it doesn't do loads, but it does enough. That's off. That's on. It's obviously a little bit louder, but if we match it. Little bit of volume change, but it definitely makes it a bit more beefier. This is the first track I've ever done that on, but I'm kind of continue to do that. Another thing I use on the main output as well is the Ampex tape machine. Sometimes, not all the time. I like the Ampex. The Struder's good, but the Ampex has more of a 3D sound, I believe, and driving things through that makes it pretty raw. I think in the last maybe 6 months I've tried to make my music sound a bit more like it's coming off a tape, but not like reducing it using bit crushers or anything, just kind of saturating the top end, so in a club it sounds warm. I think I've noticed this through playing jungle. In my DJ sets I play a lot of jungle. when I play a jungle record, it gets the same reaction as something brand new that will get a good reaction. And it's kind of like, you know, it's not necessarily about the high frequencies in music that's getting a reaction in dance floors. It's about, you know, the bottom end obviously helps, but it's the mid range as well. But I think from playing jungle in this age at the moment, it's kind of made me want to reduce taking the tops out of my music and just having that kind of bass around the mid and the bottom. So yeah, using things like these preamps and the Struder, the Ampex is kind of helping with that. You know, I might be saying a different thing in 6 months' time. I might change, but that's kind of I make music to be played in a club, you know, and fair enough, you can listen to it at home and stuff, but the environment I want to play it in is in the club, and I don't want to damage people's ears. I remember going to drum and bass parties in the late 90s and leaving the club, and I could just hear ringing in my ears for days. And I mean, stupid not to wear ear protection. I would highly recommend ear protection to anyone, but you don't need those high frequencies to get a reaction on a dance floor. So I use 2 monitors when I make music. One monitor I call the vibe, one I call the mixdown. The small ones I use for the mixdown. MSP5s, I've had them. I've had those for such a long time, probably 10 years. They were one of the first pieces of equipment I ever bought other than a laptop. I lived in very small places in the past, so I needed some small speakers. So I got them. They're honest, and they're the best speakers for me to mix down on. I understand them. They're £300. They're like so cheap, underestimated, I think. When they came out, it seemed like not many people made a noise about them, but they're very close to the NS10s, just without the white cone. So I will never change them. I know how they sound. I made my first ever album, which was a Headhunter album, I made using only those. The trick was I made the whole album, not a whole album, but I mixed the album down on a milk crate. But I had the speakers that far away from the wall, so I was getting the bass bouncing off the wall to me, and it wasn't necessarily sub bass, but I knew there was bass there, and that's how I kind of made a dubstep album, which is predominantly about bass. So I love those speakers, could never sell them. The other speakers we have is Unity Audio Rock. Those, I struggle to mix down on them. Maybe it's my room, maybe not, but I don't struggle to get a vibe from them. I can sit here and I can make music on them without having a sub, get some good bass, get everything going, you know. But when it comes to literally mixing down, I can't get the precision that I can get from the Yamahas, from these speakers. But I like them. I do like the Rock. I'm thinking about upgrading to something new soon. But I've had those for about 3 or 4 years, and I'm not in no immediate hurry to sell them or get rid of them. They are serving their purpose, and they're serving it well.